Welcome back to episode 16 of the Dear Young Men podcast. Today we're going to do something a little bit different because some things that have happened in my personal life, and I just want to talk about those. So, if you don't watch my main channel, I posted a live stream. I was supposed to be going live, and I posted a video, and here's that video.
Hello. You can probably hear me. It's very rainy where I am, and I'm just going to leave this posted. I'm shirtless right now. My basement has like 5 inches of water in it, so I will not be live streaming. Very sorry about that. I will try to do this some other day. But this is just, I can't do a live stream right now. My basement's flooded. All right. Sorry again. Bye.
So basically what happened is there was more or less a once in a lifetime storm that had hit my house, and it was just insane. Like, it was the most water I've ever seen in my entire life. My dad's basement flooded. He lives 20 minutes away from me. My mom was 15 minutes south of that, and her car, the water was up to the top of the wheel well. It was just insane. It was the most insane storm, and our basement flooded. We had 4 inches of water in the basement, and I wanted to talk about just life is really hard. Life is extremely difficult, and I don't think that I give that idea enough credence in this podcast, and I don't talk about maybe that enough because life is incredibly hard, and it will beat you down as often as it possibly can. And I want to talk about how you respond to that and your response to that. I redid the basement about 2 years ago, and I did everything right. I followed all the instructions, all the rules. I watched every YouTube video. I got a million different opinions, and I put down the flooring the way I put down the flooring. The entire basement was going to mold. The carpet was going to mold. It was all going to be completely ruined. And so I had a choice. Where I could try to take the easy way out and just let it be and just sort of deal with it, and then maybe sell the house and pass that problem on to somebody else. I could have done that, which would have been wrong morally because I would have known that it was wrong, but also because it's the wrong way to think. Life has handed me the opposite. It's like life has handed me a lemon, like a car, and not lemons. So I'm not gonna try to make lemonade out of it. It sucks. What happened to me sucked. And, it was really expensive. It was $5,000 for the carpet. The whole basement project was really expensive, thousands of dollars. And it was just kind of thrown down the tube over the course of, it was basically 20 minutes. So what had happened is that at 7:30, I walked upstairs to work out because I was going to live stream at 8. I walked upstairs to work out at 7:30. I did a really quick workout. I was going to come back downstairs, and it was 7:45 when I was coming back downstairs. And by the time I had come back downstairs, in that time frame between 7:30 and 7:45, 2 inches of water had collected in the basement, and it was rapidly rising. That's what happened. And that's, you hear me in the clip. I was frantic. I was shirtless because I was like running all over the place, just trying to figure out what was going on. Was it a leaky gutter or something? Is it something that could stop potentially? I found out that no, it wasn't that. It was just a once in a lifetime storm, basically. A once in 100-year storm, I think is what they call those types of things. In that moment, I was really frustrated. I was really upset. Why would this happen to me? Sometimes I get too high and mighty. It's like, I feel like I'm a good guy. I feel like I do good things. I try to follow a moral code that I believe is right. And I feel like I do the right things. And that's the thing about life, is it doesn't care. Life will just hit you as hard as life can hit you. And your response to that is the type of person that you are and the type of person that you will become. The type of person who gets hit by life and just stays down and says, you know what? This sucks. I was dealt a bad hand, and nobody is going to say that my hand wasn't bad. Everyone's going to sit there and basically say, you were dealt a bad hand, so your behavior is acceptable. And that's a terrible way to view life, because that's just an untruthful way to view life. Everybody was dealt their own different type of bad hand. Everybody has their own type. Some people's lives are a little bit easier, and some people's lives are a little bit harder. Right now, I'm trying to film a podcast, and I'm in the kitchen. Why? Because my basement was flooded 4 days ago, and it's Monday, and this is coming out tomorrow. I'm a little bit behind. That's my fault. But the way you respond to it is not by just giving up and not filming the podcast and just saying, who cares? I was wrong. It doesn't matter. This podcast isn't that important. The things I'm saying, they don't really matter. Or everyone's going to understand. Everyone's going to understand that I was dealt a bad hand, so they can understand that I couldn't do this podcast. But I would know deep down that I could have done it. So the way you respond to these moments in your life where you get hit as hard as you possibly can, that's going to just define the type of person that you are. in this case, is this as hard as life could hit me? No. Life could hit me a lot harder. I'm hoping it never does, but it probably will. The reality is that when life hits you, you have to respond positively, because it's going to hit you harder sometime, and you have to get used to responding to negative things positively. My basement flooded. It cost me $12,000 to redo the basement. I did all the work. And I sent a text message afterwards. Somebody they were texting me about it. I was talking to them about how bummed I am about it. And I said, you know what though? At the end of the day, this is going to cost me probably $3,000 to $4,000 to rectify. Everything that happens is going to cost me $3,000 to $4,000 to fix, which means that my basement only cost me $15,000 to $16,000 to do. That's actually not that bad. That's a pretty good price to redo an entire basement. So it's those types of moments where you just have to learn to respond more positively. Not saying it's easy. I'm not even suggesting that it's I'm not suggesting that it's easy at all. I'm not saying that. But in the moment, you have to learn to respond positively, because if you don't, you're going to be led down a path where you are constantly, every single time a little thing in your life goes wrong, you are going to be blaming others. You're going to be blaming somebody else. Well, it's unfair this happened to me when I was 10. It's unfair that this happened to me when I was 15. It's unfair that yeah, I agree. It probably was unfair, but it's your life. So those really negative things that could have happened to you in your life, they don't not count. They do. That sucks. To have those things happen to you really does suck. But it's your life. You're the one, when you sit here and complain and you bitch and moan and you say, well, it's not fair that this happened to me in my life because this guy over here had it easier. He did have it easier, but it's your life. So you're the one that's living a bad life now. Yes, that one thing negatively affected you. It could be the worst thing ever. I'm not saying that wasn't bad. What I'm saying is that your response to it is the type of person that you are. If you're just going to let it beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently, if you let it, that line from Rocky, but it's true. Life will just hit you as hard as it possibly can, and your response to it is the type of person that you are and the type of person that you will continue to become and continue to live into. If you're the type of person that something bad happens and you look for a reason to complain every single day, or you're just looking for an excuse to not do this or not do that. I'm overweight because my parents are overweight. I'm overweight because my job sucks. I'm overweight because it's like, all that stuff might be true, but you are still unhappy with the way you look and you're still overweight. It doesn't change the fact that your life is worse off. And that's a hard realization to have. Most people, I think most people will never actually have that realization, which is why I think this podcast episode, hopefully, maybe one person will see it, that it changes their mind, or listen to it, that changes their mind. But the way you respond in life is everything. No matter what happens to you, positive or negative, the way you respond to it is the type of person that you're going to be. And after my basement flooded, I had a decision. I could have sat there, moaned, bitched, complained. It's not fair. This isn't fair. And maybe I thought that, but I was working. That was my response. My response to work. On that night, 7:30 is basically 7:45, 8 o'clock is when it happened. I worked until 1 a.m. that night. No, that's not true. I worked until midnight that night cleaning it up. And then I worked for 3 hours to post a video on the tech channel, which I know I said I wasn't going to do. We'll talk about that later. And I stayed up till like 3 a.m. making that video. And then at 6:30 the next day, I woke up, went to Menards, picked up a fan to help dry the basement out a little bit, and another thing to help suck up some water. And then I grinded that whole day. I grinded until like midnight on that whole day. And then the next day, Saturday, I took the day off of work Friday, some vacation day. And then the next day on Saturday, same thing. I got up and I worked and grinded till 5. And then I finished what I needed to do in the basement in order to get everything to where it needed to be. And at 5 o'clock, I took a nap for 2.5 hours, and I woke up and then fell asleep like 3 hours later. My decision was just to work. Was that the right decision every time, to just work and throw yourself into something? Maybe not. But you have to understand, especially as a father, this is really personal to me, because as a father, my family was depending on me to show up in that moment. I could have withered away, complained, moaned, and said it's not fair. That doesn't change the fact that my family needs me to perform at my peak. They don't care how you feel. My kid, my 2-year-old, she doesn't care. She doesn't care that I had a bad day at work. She doesn't care that the basement flooded. She just wants her dad to be her dad. And so you have to just be able to show up in those moments. And being able and learning to show up in those moments is a really defining thing in your life. It becomes who you are. You're going to mess up sometimes. Did I respond perfectly when it happened? No. I was yelling, oh shit, throughout the entire house because I was just pure panic mode. I wasn't perfect. I wish I could have done things a little bit differently. But it just, you continue to have a decision. You always have that next decision. So your life sucks now, or that decision you just made sucks. You could change that decision. I initially reacted really poorly when the basement was flooding because it just ruined my night. I was going to live stream for an hour, and then I was going to play video games with my friends for the first time in forever, and I was responding really negatively to that. And I took it out on my wife in a way that I'm not happy. I yelled, and I shouldn't have yelled. I will say she was being a little annoying, but I didn't respond the best. But then in that next moment, I said, you know what? I shouldn't have done that. I apologized, and then I got to work. And I think that's the thing to understand, is that there's always that, you always get a second chance, a third chance, a 10th chance, a 100th chance. People pretty much will always give you another chance. That's the thing about humans. They pretty much always give you another chance. And I think just in life, you just have to, you may have made every wrong decision up until this moment, but this moment is not the next moment. The next moment can define who you are and how you respond in that next moment to the previous moments. I think that life is a balance between the things that happen to you and how you respond to them. The people that respond the most positively to the things that happen in their life, I think those are the ones that live the happiest lives. They're the ones that smile the most. They're the ones that laugh the most. They're the ones that can bear the weight a little bit easier because they've realized that none of this stuff, it matters. Life does matter. It's important. It's important to live a good life. But these fleshly desires, these mortal things, after a while, all this stuff will fade to dust. And if you believe in God, then you'll be with him in eternity. And if not, then I'm afraid to say you probably won't be. But I think at the end of the day, it's like, this stuff matters. It's important to be a good dad. It's important to, take care of your house. Does a flooded basement, does that need to ruin my life? No. It messed up my weekend. It did. I'm not going to lie. It messed up my Thursday night, my Friday night, my Saturday night. And Sunday I was so tired, I kind of messed that night up too. But it's how you just respond. It's just waking up and choosing to make that next right decision. Because no matter how many wrong decisions you made up to this point, if you continue to make if you start to make right decisions today, then you're making right decisions. And I think that from that moment forward, now that you're making right decisions, you could just continue to make right decisions. And that's something to remember, is that no matter how many times you've done something wrong, that's the thing, like with Christianity, this is why I think this is one of the reasons I really believe that Christianity is real, because Jesus gives you will mess up, and Jesus knows you're going to mess up. God knows you're going to mess up a gazillion times, but he gives you sort of an out in his death and resurrection, and saying that, look, I know you're going to mess up, but I know you're going to try as hard as you possibly can. And that's why I'm willing to die on the cross for you, because I know you're going to try. I know you're going to do everything you can to follow my word. You will never be as good as me, as Jesus, not as me. Everybody will be better than me. But you just have to live into that idea and that ideal that he puts forward in the Gospels. Next is just like smile. Life is so hard. So many people they're just upset. People complain. People bitch. People moan. You know the people. You know the people who the only conversation they can have are about other people and what other people are doing. Those people are bad. Don't talk to those people. Those people are a drudge, on a drag. They'll drag you down into the mud and keep you there. And you just have to learn to smile through it. So yeah, I think they're doing great. And you can sort of cut off any conversation. Don't talk negative. If you feel yourself using negative terms to say something, try to just be a little more positive about it. Something bad happened to me, and my response to people at work, they were asking me about it. I'm like, yeah, you know what? It really sucks. I wish it didn't happen. I really do. But at the end of the day, I still have my health, and there are much worse things that could happen to me than a little bit of water in my basement. And when so many things, when you break it down, it's just very simple. It's like, oh, I'm a little bit overweight. I've eaten a little bit too much food. Oh, I haven't gone to the gym enough. Oh, you know what? I haven't shown up as being as good of a father as maybe I could have been. But I'm going to start now. Yeah, it's a big deal. I shouldn't have done it. But it's not to ruin my life. I can turn it around and do better starting now. But that's up to you to make the decision to start better today. Next, understanding your earthly desires are fleeting. All this stuff, the nice house, the nice car, the nice this, everything, that stuff will just be dust before long enough. You think about right now, I'm 30 years old. So 30 years ago, a 1995, I'm 29 years old. So a 1995 sports car at the time was the thing to have. And now you could probably buy I saw a 1984 Porsche, I think, or something like that. 1984 Porsche for $4,000. So these things, they might seem like the most important thing in the moment, But in 20 years, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to care how nice your house is. Nobody's going to care how nice your car is, because it's not even going to be the nice thing anymore. It was a nice thing in the moment, but it's not the nice thing anymore. That's why I think I was talking to my boss about this at work one time, and we were saying that we think the number one thing keeping people in the middle class is expensive car payments. It's the $1,200 a month truck payment. It's the $1,200 a month SUV payment. Those payments are for earthly things. And you spend all this money and all this time, 72 months, $1,000 a month, and your interest rate's like insane amounts of money. You pay $100,000 for a $60,000 car. That's the type of stuff that's killing you. Is you just want this nice thing right now. I need to have it today. I need to have it yesterday. Tomorrow is too late. That's a really unfortunate way to live, because life is so much more than just those earthly desires, those earthly things. And it has to be, because if it was just all about that, then life would have no meaning. If you take the ideas of the people who are anti-God to their full conclusion, it's a miserable life. And if you take the ideas of somebody who believes in God, it's a really positive life. You follow that to its logical conclusion. It's a very positive life. It's a very good life. It's a life of sacrifice. It's a life of worship. And there's this idea too, that where it's the person that lives as a Christian, that lives into that idea. And if they're wrong, they do that their whole lives. If they're wrong, they will make more money. They will have a happier marriage. They'll have more kids. They'll live kind of an objective, by all metrics, objectively better life. And if they're wrong, the worst thing to happen to them is that they were lied to. That's it. That's a bad thing. That they would have been lied to, but that would be the worst thing to happen to them. But the person who's an atheist that doesn't believe in God, the worst thing that can happen to him at the end of it is that he loses everything. Is that he was wrong and he lost everything. And to me, the open mockery of Christianity is that idea to its conclusion. It's like you lost everything when you do that. You lose everything. And yet your life from some metrics, it might look better than mine. You might sleep with more women than I sleep with. You might do those types of things, the non-Christian things. But when you do that, and you do that long enough, you'll realize that it'll suck your soul right out of your body. Next, I think that as a guy specifically, and as a father, as a husband, you have to learn to shoulder the burden. This thing that happened to my family, I did all of the work to clean it up. Nothing changed. My wife and my kids' lives, they didn't change. Nothing changed for them, and nothing should have changed for them. That's what it means, I think, to be a father and to be a husband, is to shoulder the entire burden of something negative happening to you. And it's hard. It's really hard to do that, because it's just fake. You're just lying. You're just sitting there going, oh yeah, no, everything's fine. Everything's fine. I'll take care of it. And on the inside, you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I have no idea I'm going to do this. But I think that you have to learn to lie a little bit to them and say that, no, it's fine. It's not a big deal. You know what? I'll have this busted out in just a little bit. It's no big deal. It sucks. I don't really want to do it, but you guys just keep doing what you're doing. I'll take care of it. I think shouldering that burden it's really hard to do, because there's no real reward from it. My kids won't thank me. My wife might thank me, but my kids, they don't care, and they won't thank me. I mean, one of them doesn't talk, and the other one, she puts sentences together a little bit, but she doesn't understand the words. So it's like you just have to do it because it's the right thing to do for your family. You have to be, I've talked about this before, but you have to be the atlas for your family, and your family is the world. So when something incredibly negative comes out of the blue and just hits you like a ton of bricks, you just have to learn to shoulder that burden, especially for your family. For your own sake, too, learn to carry a weight. The more weight you can carry today, you just slowly add on to it, and you realize you can carry much more than you think. It's like a muscle. The more of a burden that you can shoulder, the more of a burden you can shoulder tomorrow, which is a good thing, because you could be that rock for your family that they need in a time of distress, like the basement's flooding, we have thousands of dollars we're spending. Look, this was a bad thing that happened to me. It wasn't the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. And I think that you just have to learn to shoulder that burden, because that way, when something really bad happens, you at least have a little bit of practice, and you know that you can shoulder some burden in some weight. And it's hard. It's really hard to do that. And I'm not sitting here saying that any of this stuff is easy. Looking back, I didn't do everything perfect. I wish I would have done some things differently, the way I responded to it. But I think that in those moments, you just have to take a second, breathe, and realize that life is impossibly difficult. But the way you respond to it is the type of person that you are. and you want to be a better person than you are today. So learn to respond better. That will conclude the 16th episode of the Dear Young Men podcast. I know it's a short one. Extenuating circumstances. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you in the next one. If you are subscribed and you like these videos on YouTube, please go over to the podcast apps, Apple and Spotify, and like them and follow me there. I think it helps push them. If not, then that's fine, and I will see you guys next week. Peace.